Now, Todd Blanche's DOJ is slow-walking transparency around the Epstein files, and it is doing it in front of a judge. The judge wants answers about why they aren't complying with orders to unredact and release more of the Epstein files. Today's case, which was brought by journalist Katie Fang, aims to address, in part, foreign language records and the government's withholding of some non-victim email addresses. Fang has detailed the DOJ's ongoing failures to comply with the Epstein Files Transparency Act and with the court's prior orders. But the question remains, will the DOJ finally release more information? MS Now senior legal reporter Alicia Rubin is following what is happening in court. Epstein survivor Danielle Bensky is also with us. It is good to have you both at the table. Tell me, Lisa, what has gone on so far?
So, Alicia, while we've been sitting here, this hearing is going on. Our producer, Casey Gannon, is sitting in the courtroom. And indeed, the Department of Justice showed up with documents that they were supposed to provide to the court before today's hearing and yet did not. They handed up a binder to the court to try and document, for example, why it was that they identified certain people as victims or survivors in documents. But one of the things that they have done is continue to defend their withholding of handwritten notes of interviews with a woman who told the FBI in 2019 that she was sexually abused by both Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump. The department's decision to withhold those notes, they say, was made because those documents were somehow duplicative of the ultimate memos that were compiled by the FBI. And the judge says to the lawyer who's representing the DOJ in court, Andrew Block, so you have no additional information. Is that what you're saying? The lawyer, yeah. I think so. Now, you and I were talking in the last hour about the fact that Andrew Block just made his notice of appearance in the case last night, meaning for the first time he's saying, I'm going to be the one representing the Department of Justice in court. And I predicted to you that one of the things that would happen is that Andrew Block would say, I'm not familiar with the history here. I don't really know what decisions were made because he wasn't a part of making those decisions. And indeed, that is exactly what is happening before Judge Emmett Sullivan right here and now as we are live.
The fact that you can continue to laugh at the absurdity is truly a testament to your character, Danielle.
Oh my gosh, thank you. But it's crazy. I mean, it's the fact that he can't comply. Blanche has never complied, right? There are so many things here where it's blaming ignorance and it's saying, well, we oversaw, like it was overseen, or it was like we missed the deadline. Can we just extend it another 60 days? Like it's all the same tactic that is meant to dizzy the American people, meant to dizzy survivors. And I commend Katie Fang for doing what she's doing because, I mean, even just in the foreign language material, right? These are documents that we have never seen released. And when we sat at that Todd Blanche meeting, he made the point to say, we said the 6 million documents and he said 3 million. And we sat there and we were like, we know that there's so much information that you have not released that is not duplicative, right? We know that there are FBI training videos that have been discussed before and we've never seen them. We also know that there's so much video content. Like I remember being in the massage room, there was a camera right there. So we know that all of this stuff exists. And so for him to now say everything is duplicative, there's nothing to see when, of course, like even just in the language here, that we are the things that still haven't been produced, right? The foreign language material, the redaction log, the non-victims emails, right? Like these things are things that need to be produced.
There are inherent tensions in this case. You have a tension between transparency and protecting folks like yourself, even though they have failed to do that. But that was supposed to be the intention, or at least the tension with transparency. There is also just the reality that survivors are a class of people, but not a monolith. Do you have any concerns about any of the documents that Katie Fang is seeking to have released and what they could mean for other survivors?
I don't. I think, and again, we are not a monolith, as you said, right? But there are two emails that I think about. And one of them is this email that says, basically saying that sex with a 15 or a 14-year-old girl is acceptable. And the other email is about torture videos. We know that those are male people that are not being identified, right? Those are not victims. Todd Blanche was asked to bring in corroborative evidence that it was a victim, and it isn't. So, those are things that Todd Blanche desperately needs to answer for and isn't.
Do you have a sense of what kind of documents we're talking about here?
I think one of the things that we're talking about, obviously in the foreign language materials, we don't have a very good sense of the volume of it. But I think Danny knows well from her conversations with other survivors and her own lived experience that the amount of recruitment that went on overseas is, we haven't scratched the surface on what went on, in part because of barriers like the foreign language documents. But I want to get back to something that we were discussing earlier, because as we have been sitting here, this hearing is going bizarrely sideways. This is a Department of Justice that is still declining to provide to a federal judge copies of the handwritten notes, and essentially taking the position, trust us. When we tell you, for example, that these handwritten notes are duplicative, that's the decision that we've made. We have no other information for you. And at one point, the DOJ lawyer is even saying to the judge, I'm not sure what you're asking for. And the judge's response is, I am asking for evidence that will allow me to confirm the representations that you are making on the record. If somebody has made the determination that these are in fact duplicative, how do I know that to be the case? At base, there is a level of distrust that is now permeating this proceeding, but also so many other throughout the country. We talk about something called the presumption of regularity. That's a really fancy way of saying DOJ used to be trusted in courtrooms throughout the country. When a DOJ lawyer stood up and said, I'm Lisa Rubin for the government, as I never have, but when they said that, that meant something. It meant the facts that I'm about to present to you are something you, federal judge, can trust. That trust has been eroded by the behavior of this Department of Justice, not only with respect to the Epstein files, but that's a big portion of why, but in a whole host of other cases on all sorts of unrelated topics, including the detention of immigrants, for example. All throughout the country, we are seeing judges say, I can no longer take just trust me as an acceptable answer. And Judge Emmett Sullivan's doing it right now.
Jenny, just real quickly before we go, I mean, this is Todd Blanche's first week in office. Do you feel like you have a sense of what the DOJ is going to be like?
I mean, yes, it's everything that we expected. But I wonder why we aren't facts-based anymore, right? We're hearing all these conversations, trust me, this like bro code that exists, right? Trust me, we're transparent. And you were saying it earlier in the program, right? This idea of like, we're the most transparent DOJ, we're the most transparent administration. And then it's like, but we're like looking at the facts. I mean, that was part of why I was so opposed to Todd Blanche being nominated / he is now the acting AG. Like, because when you look at the facts of how many victims he re-victimized by exposing all of our information, not just once, not just, mine was 9 data sets. That's insane. And I wasn't even the worst, right? You have a victim out there who was exposed 500 times and she was a Jane Doe. Like, these are like tangible things that you can see. So I don't understand how it's just a race and Republicans don't look at the facts and say this is hugely problematic and he cannot be responsible to be the highest position of law enforcement in our country.
And why you were exposed, but there are such great efforts and lengths being gone to keep private